Welcome back to the GCSE Maths Pro YouTube channel. In this video, we will be looking through set notation. So that is to do with Venn diagrams, but more specifically this type of notation and what we call sets. So which areas of the Venn diagrams are we referring to? So these are probably the main three to just be aware of. We've got obviously the letter P is representing the probability, right? So the probability of, and then whatever's in the brackets. Then we have to figure out, or at least memorize, the notation in the brackets, so how it's written in the brackets, which area of my Venn diagram is that referring to. So the main two bits of notation we need to pay attention to is this kind of U shape and then the N shape. Now, often they tend to use A and B. In this case, you can see that A represents the left-hand circle in the Venn diagram, so the left set, and then B represents the right-hand circle, or the right set in the Venn diagram. Now, they might obviously change those letters, but as long as you know which one it's referring to, which circle, it doesn't really matter. But the U and the N are more specific. So U technically represents the word union. Now, what does that actually mean? Because really that doesn't really tell us anything, does it? Union, in terms of probability, means or. You know, with probability, we normally have the or rule or the and rule. Union is or, so you don't have to necessarily remember that it's called union, but as long as you remember that the U means or. So you can see here, we've got the probability of A or B. Now, think about the and or rules. Or is normally add, isn't it? And then the and rule is normally multiply. So if you just think about that, because obviously probabilities are normally decimals, less than 1, if you add them together, you've got quite a big probability, quite a big area of the Venn diagram. But if you're saying and you're multiplying them, the chances of two things happening at the same time, so both of them, is smaller, isn't it, than just one or the other. So you can see that's why if you have a look at both of these, this one here with the N means intersect or intersection is and. I just remember it because it looks like an N and there's an N in the word and, so that's how I kind of put those two together. And then the other one I just go, well, that one must be or, in which case. If I'm saying, oh, I want to know the probability that either A or B happens, just one or the other, it's a much higher chance, isn't it, that one of them at least will happen than A and B, than both of them at the same time. So you can see we've got A or B means all of A and all of B. The probability of A and B is just literally the intersection, just the bit where it overlaps. So it's a much smaller probability. If you were to multiply together, as I was saying before, two decimals less than 1, the number always gets smaller, so the probability is even less. Now the other thing is if you have this little kind of apostrophe here, this means not. So in this case, the probability that it's not A. So everything other than A. Obviously if you put probability of not B, then this shading would flip. So in this case, not A is the apostrophe. So those are the main three that I would recommend you memorize. Now, obviously there can be loads of different combinations. I don't know to what extent they'll ask you this. I feel like they tend to stick with the ones I've just shown you, the kind of easier ones. But just in case, because obviously there's so many different combinations, you're not exactly going to memorize them all. I'm just going to go through and show you how I figure it out. If there is one that kind of throws me a bit and I don't remember what it is, I can kind of try and figure it out. Obviously, still remember that the U means or and the N shape means and. So this one here says the probability of A or not B. So what I tend to do is highlight both. You can obviously use a pencil if you like. But let's say the probability of A. What's that? What part of my Venn diagram is that? Well, that's obviously the whole circle of A, isn't it? Now think about not B. Not B. What would be, separately to that, ignore the A, what is the area of the Venn diagram that is not B? So that is not B, isn't it? Everything that doesn't include the B circle. So I've highlighted, or I've at least in your head identified the areas for the two separate probabilities. Now we need to put it together. Okay, this is now where it's important to know, is it or is it and? If it is or, so the U shape, then the area that you want as your answer is everything that has been shaded in. So do you see how I've shaded in the outside? I've shaded in the A bit on its own, and I've shaded in the middle bit between A and B. If it's or, do you remember how I just said, it's normally a bigger area of the Venn diagram because you're adding together all of these different probabilities, which means it adds up to being quite a lot, isn't it? So it's either that A happens or not B happens. That's quite a lot of area. So the answer to this one would just be everything I've shaded in here. So that would be the answer as it is. Obviously, you would, shade it in the same colour. That would be the answer because it's or. It includes every single piece I've highlighted, so everything except for just the B on its own. The one below, can you see, is just the exact opposite. Literally just the exact opposite, okay? So you could highlight all of not A, and then all of actually B, and then it would be everything because it's or. So that would be your answer for the opposite. You can see I've highlighted all of not A, so everything excluding A, and I've highlighted separately all of B, and then because it's or, it's all of those bits combined. So for the next one, we've then got to find the probability of A and not B. So this is where I was saying about where they overlap. So as we said before, the probability of A is obviously the whole of the A circle. The probability of not B is everything outside of the B circle. Now, again, this is where we look at, is it and or is it or? Because it's and, it's both of them happening at the same time. So you're only going to keep the bit where both are highlighted. Can you see how that's just the A bit, but only the A bit, not the intersection, not the whole of the A circle, just only the A bit on its own. So you need to get rid of everything else. So just rub out anything else if you've done it with a pencil. So that would be our answer. Do you see how it's actually a smaller part of the Venn diagram? Because it has to be both things at the same time, not just either or. And then obviously the one below is the probability of not A and B. So that's just exactly the opposite. So there's not A and B at the same time. Now this one over here is the probability of not A or not B. So again, highlight both, not A on its own and not B on its own. So that is obviously not A. This is obviously not B on its own. So when we overlap them, you can see what we get here. And because, as I said again, because it's or, we are going to be accounting for everything that's been highlighted. So not just where it's overlapping the highlighting bits, everything that's highlighted is not A or not B. So basically everything except for the intersection. Now this one down here is now the probability of not A and not B. So having a look at this one here, it's where they both overlap. So you can see where they both overlap, the green and the yellow, is just this outside bit, isn't it? So not A and not B at the same time is obviously everything that's outside of the circles. So there you can see not A and not B is where they both overlap. So if you compare all of them, the or ones are always the ones where you've actually ended up colouring in more, and the and ones are where you coloured in less because it's only the bit where they overlap. So if it's or, it's just everything you've highlighted, and if it's and, then it's just where those two highlighted areas might overlap. Now, obviously, they are likely to ask you some actual questions where we also have to fill in the Venn diagram too. So this other piece of notation here just means the universal set, which in other words is basically everything that should be contained in the Venn diagram, whether that's in the circles or whether that's on the outside, but basically everything in this rectangle. So in this case, they've said that the universal set, or the whole Venn diagram, contains odd numbers less than 30. So if they do that and they haven't actually listed it for you, what I would do is just list those out. What are the odd numbers less than 30? So starting at 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, and 29. So if they don't list it for you, make sure you list it out because we want to go through and tick them off as we put them into the Venn diagram. Then obviously you've got the A set and the B set. So in the A circle, we've got 3, 9, 11, 23, and 29. And in the B circle, we've got 7, 11, 15, 27, and 29. Sometimes there will be numbers that obviously overlap, making them go in the middle. So you can start by going through this list here of the whole universal set, figuring out where they go. Or you can obviously just start with the A and B and go from there. So for example, A, we've got 3. Now you can see it's not in B, so it's just A, so that's there. Cross that off. Then we've got 9, also not in B, so just in the A one. Then we've got 11, which you can see is also in B, so that would go in the middle between both of them. And then 23 in A alone, and also 29 is between both. So you can do it in that order if you want, because now we've done A, we now want to then tick off what's in B. Whatever's left is obviously just in B, isn't it? 7, 15, and 27. Cross those off and cross them off here. Now you can see why I've mentioned that you should list all the numbers in the whole Venn diagram as well. Because yeah, it's quite easy to fill out what's in A and B, but you want to make sure that you haven't missed out any numbers that might be in the outside. So you can see 1, 5, 13, 17, 19, 21, and 25 are not in the A or B sets, but they are in the Venn diagram, aren't they? So I just need to list those here now. 1, 5, 13, 17, 19, 21, 25. Sometimes you don't normally have that many on the outside, but either way, just make sure when you are ticking them off that you have actually filled in other numbers that might not be in A or B. They might just be on the outside. So I've completed the Venn diagram. Now, part B, list the members of the set here, A and B. A intersect B. So in this case, it's not a probability. They just want us to list which numbers or which members are in that set. So this is where you do need to identify, well, what part of the Venn diagram is that referring to? And as we said before, A and B is just the overlap between them, isn't it? It's both A and B at the same time. So it has to be the overlap. So if I'm going to list them, that would be 11 and 29. So double check, because part B might be work out a probability, or it might be list the members, in which case I just need to write down which ones are in there. Question 2, similar again, obviously we've just got different numbers now for our Venn diagram. So this time they have actually listed all the numbers in the whole Venn diagram, but they haven't listed A or B specifically. So set A is multiples of 3, but obviously not just any multiples of 3, it's multiples of 3 from this list here. So you could also go around and make a list of that. Multiples of 3 is obviously 12, so in the 3 times tables basically, isn't it? 15 and 18. And then factors of 60 for B is which numbers divide into 60. So 12, 15, and 20. So now I've got this list, now I'm just going to fill it out. I can see that in A and B we've got 12 and 15. Cross all of those off. And then in just A we've got 18, and in just B we've got 20. And then everything else is on the outside, isn't it? 11, 13, 14, 16, 17, and 19. There we go. So I've completed the Venn diagram. Now I have a different question for part B. So a number is chosen at random from the universal set, so from the Venn diagram as a whole. Find the probability that this number is in the set A or B. That's A or B, isn't it? So again, remember, what part of the Venn diagram are we referring to when we say A or B? A or B, remember, is if you highlight all of A on all of B, because it's or, it's everything, isn't it? So it's both of these circles, both of the sets A and B. Now, how do I make that into a probability though? So it's always going to be a fraction in this case. I think that's the easiest thing to do. How many members have I got inside the highlighted region? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then because it's out of the whole universal set, which is the whole Venn diagram, how many members do I have in general? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 4 out of 10. Now, obviously you could simplify that. That does technically simplify to 2/5, but I know with probability they don't really tend to bother if it's simplified or not, unless they obviously explicitly tell you. But normally you can just leave it as any form of fraction. Okay, so this is our final question. We've just thrown in one that is a 3-part Venn diagram just in case they do give you one. So it does work the same way though. We've been told that the whole Venn diagram contains even numbers between 51 and 81. So I would probably list those out first just so that I can then go and tick them all off. So there is my list of numbers that will go into the Venn diagram. Now we can just go through A, B and C and check which numbers fit where. So 54 is in A. You can see it's not in B or C, so I can just put that on its own. 56 is again just in A. Then we've got 62, which you can see is actually in all 3 of them. So that goes in the middle. And then 66, again just in A. Now, on to B, we've got 58, again just in B. 74, you can see is in B and C. And then 80 is just in B. Lastly, for C, we've got 68, so that's just in the C section on its own. And then we have to fill in anything else that is missing on the outside. So 52, 60, 64, 70, 72, 76, 78. So now we can tick all of them off and we've filled out our Venn diagram. Then we've got part B, a number is chosen at random from the universal set. So from the whole Venn diagram, we're choosing a number randomly. We need to find the probability that it is not A and B and C. So it is B and C, but it's at the same time not A. So as I said at the start, let's just highlight all three of those sections. And because it's and, we just need to look at where it overlaps. So as you can see, this section here, the green, is not A. Then we want to highlight the section that is B. So you can see that that is the section B. And then also we want to highlight the section that is C. So the orange is just C. Now, as we said, because it is and, so not A, and at the same time B, and at the same time C, it's kind of hard to see, but we're looking for the bit on the Venn diagram where we know that all three colours have been highlighted. And that is this section here. So it's not A, because you can see it's outside of the A circle. It is B, because it's in the B circle, and it is also C, because it's in the C circle. So it's all three of those categories at the same time. So that's the bit that we're looking at. So you can see if I just highlight that in pink, that's the bit that we want. Now we want a probability. So again, how many numbers are in that section? Just one. Out of how many numbers are in the whole Venn diagram? We could count obviously either on the Venn diagram or from your list at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it's 1/15. That's the probability. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about Venn diagrams in general, including set notation. If you haven't already seen the previous video on Venn diagrams, where it's a 3-part Venn diagram and you're given a context, so people speaking different languages, going on different holidays, that kind of thing, definitely go back and check out that video. I will have it linked down below in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave down below any questions or comments that you might have.